Good morning, guys, and welcome back to another Train Sim World 5 video. This is a requested series that I'm doing, which is basically a complete beginner's guide to Train Sim World 5. I have had quite a few people interested in getting into this game, and some people that have bought the game and have experimented with a bit, but there's a lot of things, even after doing the tutorials, that they still don't fully understand. This is going to be our beginner's guide. I'm going to start this beginner's guide with the previous video is what you get in each of the different editions. And then this is going to be our first of the tutorials. I'm probably going to break the tutorials up into 3 or 4 videos just so then I don't end up with an hour-long video or something like that. But we'll see how we go. Anyway, I'm assuming that you've got a fresh install of Train Sim World 5. I'm starting from scratch, from level 1. I'm not using an existing account or anything like that. We are literally starting from the very beginning. So when I hit this, it's going to take us through to creating a character. I mean, there isn't much in the way of choosing characters, so just choose somebody that most looks like you and give yourself a name. Okay, once you confirm, you'll be presented with signing all your life away, and you end up on this screen. Now, I find this screen quite weird because if you choose beginner, it does take you straight into the tutorials, which is good if you're a complete beginner, but it doesn't set your HUD up properly. I'm going to recommend, for now, that we choose standard. If you've already done this and you've chosen a different thing, it's not going to make a difference. It just changes your HUD. For some reason, you get the normal HUD if you choose standard, the simple HUD if you choose beginner, and then you get the minimal HUD if you choose experienced. That makes sense, but these two should be the other way around. This should be your normal HUD, this should be your simple HUD. The simple HUD is what the tutorials prompt you on, so I'm going to choose standard. I will show you how to change that as soon as we get in here. In fact, let's do that right now. I'm going to choose standard. It takes you to your roots, the standard does. Then we're going to go straight to our settings. The only settings that I have currently changed from default for me is I came into screen and I set my resolution and my graphics. These are things that you have to figure out on yourself, whether I think naturally it's set to high. I cranked mine up to ultra because I know my machine can handle it, and I put my resolution, which was on 1080, to 1440. That's all I've changed in here. The other thing I changed is, as you can tell, I've turned my game music down. Actually, I've turned it right off. But everything else is completely and utterly standard. So for your HUD, go into accessibility, and I would make sure that your HUD type is set to normal for this tutorial. Okay, and it probably is going to help you is if everything else is set to standard, but it's not going to matter if it's not. You'll know what settings you've changed and what you haven't. Right, so tutorials, we have just started. It is prompting us to go to the training center, and we're going to go with start your journey, the fundamentals. So let's jump in. What I will say is this isn't going to be a fast-paced video. I'm going to be taking my time as much as I can and really trying to explain things that I don't think are explained well in the tutorials. I do think the tutorials in this game are really good, but some things could be explained better, and some things are completely missed out. So let's jump in. Let's go start our journey, which is going to take us to just walking about.
Embarking on a new career is always exciting. Today you're joining the list of people who work on the railways, keeping the world's people and cargo running smoothly. There's a lot to learn, but you'll be taking it step by step. Let's start by looking around. Find each of the markers and look at them.
Okay, so this is fairly straightforward. Look at the markers. You'll see you've got in the middle of the screen, I'll put down here, you've got this little white dot. That's your crosshair. You're just pointing all of them at the markers. Now, this is for whether you want to invert your vertical up and down the way axis. I personally don't, so I'm going to click no. If you're one of these people that are used to playing things like flight sims and stuff like that, some people I know are quite used to it being the other way around. So, yeah, for me though, I'm clicking no.
Before you get to the trains, take a quick tour of the facility here and learn the basics of moving around on foot.
Okay, so WASD are your move around keys.
Your current objective is shown in the top left of the screen.
Okay, so at this point I'm going to point out my first helpful tip that isn't explained well in the tutorial. If you're using mouse and keyboard, obviously if you're playing this on console, I don't know if this works on console. It's not something I've looked into. I'm playing on PC. And if I click my right mouse button, I end up with a locked camera and I can move my mouse about. This is handy for when you're in a train pointing at controls. I've done it just now because I wanted to point out this is what they were talking about. This is your current objective. So if ever you're not sure what it is you're meant to be doing, this is here. And apart from unless you've got your HUD completely turned off, this will always be here. So it's really handy in that respect. So yeah, right clicking your mouse button lets you go from looking around to locked camera and use your mouse however you see fit. This is our objective, to follow our markers to over here. I use this a lot when I'm setting up trains and stuff. You'll notice as I play that my mouse pointer's quite often free.
You've just been awarded some action points. These are displayed in the top right corner of the screen and count towards your overall experience level for the game. This is one of the many route tasks you can discover. Keep an eye out for other tasks that will ask you to place, collect, or fix a variety of things. Head into the main building to continue your induction.
Okay. So action points. Again, top right, this is your experience. In this game, experience really counts for nothing. You don't unlock anything new by leveling up and all that stuff, which personally I love. It gives you experience in three different things. Your general player level, then you get your route experience, how much you've driven a certain route, and a certain locomotive. That's your three different things that you get experience-wise. But like I say, it's not something you have to worry about. On level 1, you have access to everything a level 5,000 player has. It's really just brownie points, is all it is. Anyway, let's carry on. Follow the markers.
Walk over to the...
So yeah, walk over to here. To sit in a seat, you're hitting E.
You can pause at any point to review objectives and a lot of other information about what's happening at the moment. Try it now and then return to the game after you've had a look round.
Okay, so I'm hitting escape to get to my options. This is really the menu that your schedule is really showing you what it is that you're going to be doing, your schedule. So if you were doing a route, it would be your stops and stuff like that. This is your map, and you can zoom in and out. We're in the training center. You've got your overview of this would give you speed restrictions and things like that. What I would say with this is play about, have a look at it as much as you want. Pause the video here if you want to spend a bit of time looking through this, and then come back. Once you're ready, just hit escape to come back.
Now that you've covered some of the basics of moving around and interacting with the environment, let's take a walk through the building and find the trains.
Okay. So we're going to take a wander through the building. In Train Sim World 4, you used to go upstairs and look out over the train yard, but in this one, we just come straight through here. I have missed my automatic door, haven't I? There we go. And here are our trains. Here are our locomotives that in our tutorials, these are the ones that we're going to be learning to drive in our tutorials.
This is Central Square. From here you can explore the main training center depot and surrounding yards. Your journey operating trains is just getting started here at the training center. Remember, you can always come back here from the main menu to refresh your knowledge if you're unsure about anything.
Yeah, and that is the thing with these training things, guys. You can repeat these as much as you want. When you do anything in Train Sim World, you get brownie points. I got a silver medal there for some strange reason. Anyway, yeah, that's what it is. And this gives you a breakdown of, did you speed? You get negative points and positive points. Were you on time? All these different things. Anyway, let's carry on. Screen elements. Now, in this tutorial, these tutorials that I'm doing, I'm going to go on the assumption that most people want to get to a point where they're playing as immersively as possible. So what I mean by that is to get rid of as much of the HUD as possible. So I'm going to be approaching it with the thought that most of us probably want to play with the minimal HUD at some point. So at some point we'll make that transition. Anyway, let's carry on. I mention that now because we're about to start talking about the HUD.
In this training module, you'll learn about the on-screen overlay known as the heads-up display, or HUD. You'll see it when you're in control of a train. You can configure a range of parameters for the HUD that affect how it looks in the game settings. In this tutorial, you're going to take a look at the two main types of HUD and make a first choice of which one you prefer. Get started by climbing up the ladder into this train and sit in the indicated driving seat.
So one thing I will mention that I did there, I use my center mouse wheel to zoom in and out if you're looking at things far off. Let's jump aboard. So to jump aboard, follow the markers, and E lets you climb up. And E also lets you sit down.
Welcome to the most important seat in the train. Before you can start learning how to make the train move, you're going to need to understand what the HUD is telling you. There are three types of HUD. The one you're seeing now is the normal HUD. You'll learn that first, and then take a look at the minimal HUD next. There is also a simple HUD, which is essentially a cut-down version of the normal HUD. The HUD is a guide to show you what the train is doing, how you're doing, and what your next objectives are. You can tune what's shown here using the game settings. The main part of the normal HUD is the speed display in the bottom right. Your current speed is indicated by a white bar that will appear on the outside of the speedometer, and there is a red mark that indicates the maximum permitted speed. This is the direction display. An arrow will indicate the forward, reverse, and neutral directions. A cross, or X, means the reverser is currently either not inserted or in the off position. This is the power display. A number will indicate what position the power or throttle control is in. If the display is white, it refers to power. If the display is yellow, it means powered braking or dynamic braking. If the display is red, then the throttle is currently locked out and you will need to take steps to release the lock before power can be applied. You can learn about troubleshooting elsewhere in Training Center. These are the brake indicators. The exact one shown will vary by train and will often be visible in the train itself on the various gauges. These gauges tell you what is happening in the braking system. The most important one is the BC or brake cylinder. In most trains, when this reads 0, that means the brakes are released. Anything else and the brakes are applied. In the top right is the track monitor. This shows you the line ahead and allows you to see all the signals and speed limit changes that you're approaching. By default, the track monitor shows the signals with their actual red, yellow or green aspect. But when you get more confident, you can hide this information via an option in the game settings. As you accelerate, the track monitor will extend its look-ahead distance so you can see much further ahead at higher speeds. This is all done automatically. Now that you're familiar with the normal HUD, it's time to take a look at the minimal HUD. You can change this via the game settings, but for this tutorial the game will change it automatically. You can see that most of the HUD is now gone. You are left with basic information in the top left corner. The minimal HUD immerses you in the experience of driving the train. Use the train's real gauges as much as possible. In the top left corner, you will see the information about your next objective and some limited information about what the train's doing, such as your current speed, the speed limit, and the gradient. Use the game settings to add and remove information from the minimal HUD. With less information, you'll find driving more challenging, but also more immersive and rewarding. Experienced players might prefer the minimal HUD, especially when driving from the cab view. The normal HUD is ideal for newcomers or anyone who wants to drive from an external camera. You can switch HUDs in game settings. Do you want to start with the normal HUD or minimal HUD?
Okay, so we are going to aim to be minimal HUD. But for now, bearing in mind this is complete beginner's guide, we're going to go to the normal HUD. And we're going to change things as we go. And what I'm going to show you is as we go where to find the information in the train, in the locomotive, so that when we do transition to the minimal, you're not missing. Because, you know, the normal HUD for a beginner does give us some valuable information. So we're going to go normal for now. I normally change with drive minimal, and I make my minimal as possible. But that's where we're going to aim to get to. Anyway, now normal.
That concludes this module. If you wish to replay it, you can come back to it at any time via the training center.
Okay. Let's continue this. Let's go back. Let's go back to the training center a second. I want to show you something very quickly. So I'm going to load in. Before we carry on with the next tutorial, very, very quickly, I want to load in and see if it should. I don't know if it's going to let me do this, but we shall have a look. It has, right. So, what I wanted to show you was with this HUD here, I wanted to make it a little bit more clear because that was a lot of information. Okay, that was a huge amount of information. So I wanted to talk about what he was talking about. So I'm going to pop the key in. Okay, you'll get some of these warnings that come up, and that's okay. This part here is to do with your reverser. Okay, that's our reverse, that's our neutral, and that's our forward. And you can see you just get an arrow that points in the direction that it's going, and this is off. This is, in this train, you've got a joint power and brake. I'm not going to go into that much more. What I wanted to point out, though, was these two bits here. What the difference between the normal HUD and the simple HUD are. So I'm going to show you now quickly how to change that. You go into Options, Settings, Accessibility, and then we've got Normal, Off, Minimal, and Simple. If we change it to the simple HUD, all that changes is that the outside bits have disappeared. Now, the outside bits are helpful because they give you your gradient over here and things. And here it gave you your brake cylinder information as well. I'm going to pop it back to normal just now. Again, accessibility. And pop it on normal. But we are going to try and get ourselves at some point to minimal. What I would say with that first tutorial is go over it a few times, try and absorb the information. There was a huge amount of information that he gave you there. I'll talk about it as we go forward as well in our journey. Let's get on with the next training. So let's go on with our fundamentals. Moving a train. Let's get to the exciting stuff, right? The actual part where we start to drive a locomotive.
In this training module, you're going to learn how to make a train move and then bring it to a stop. For this exercise, you'll be using a British Class 323 electric multiple unit. It's a great train to get started with as the controls are quite straightforward. This module will get you used to the feel of the train and its controls. While many trains have different controls and are operated in different ways, there are basically always 3 controls that are common and are required to move the train. The reverser chooses the direction you're going to move in. It often has 4 positions: off, forward, neutral, and reverse. The brakes are used to slow or stop the train. There are potentially multiple braking systems you can find in different trains, and you can read more about that in other sections of the training centre. For now, the Class 323 has a very simple braking system. The throttle controls how fast the train accelerates. In this train, the throttle and brakes are controlled by a combined power and brake handle. Moving the handle in one direction will apply power. The middle position is neutral and does nothing, and then the other range applies the brakes. You will find in some other trains that the throttle and brakes are on separate handles. Before you go any further, set the headlights for daytime running and ensure the tail lights are off.
So, let's do this. All we need to do here is drag. I've got day head, and I'm going to turn my tail lights off.
We want to move the train forwards, so set the reverser to the forwards position.
Also, just to be clear, because this is a question that I've had, I quite often get asked, while driving a train, why do you turn the tail lights off? You don't turn the tail lights off for the whole train. you turn the tail lights off here. Let me show you this. If I spin around here, our tail lights here are on at the moment, and our headlights are on. If I go back inside, turn these off, and go back outside, am I at the right end? You can now see that these lights are now turned off. But if I go to the other end of my train, you can see that they're still on, because the button will be on for tail lights in this cab. Remember, it's a double-ended train. I get asked about that a lot. Why do you turn the tail lights off? That's why, because the tail lights are off at this end, but on at the other end. Right. So let's set it to forward.
Now pull the combined power and brake handle towards you to release the brakes and apply power.
So, as we can see at the moment, let's have a look at the HUD here and look about what we were talking about. This is neutral, so I've got this. This bit here is just telling me, am I in reverse, neutral, forward, or off? We want to be in forward. This is telling me that it's yellow, so it's showing me that I'm in the brake area because it's a yellow colour. Okay, so I'm at the moment on B3, brake 3. If I drop this to brake 2, goes to 2, 1, and then I've got the middle section, which is just kind of neutral, like your car being in neutral. And then, of course, if I pull it towards me, I then go into the power.
In the bottom right and in the center of the speedometer gauge, you can see a little ball. This is the accelerometer and will move up or down to indicate whether you're speeding up or slowing down.
So as you can see if I'm accelerating, the ball moves forward. If I'm braking, it moves backwards. And that kind of shows me, this is handy if you're on a gradient, because you can see how much power is being applied. Anyway, let's get up to the speed that it wants us up to. It says 30 kilometers an hour, which is 18 mile an hour, which we're about to hit.
Now that you've reached your target speed, you can move the throttle control back to the center position. The train...
There we go. I should have let that play. What he was going to say is the train will now coast, which is saving your motors and things like that. So you can see I'm at 0 here because I'm in my 0 position here. Our driver assists we will talk about in a future video. Here's my speed. This is my speed restriction here. My brake cylinders are currently empty. We will be asked to stop in a minute.
When it comes to stopping trains, the specifics of each train can be quite different. However, the basic process is fundamentally the same. Bring this train to a complete stop by moving the power brake handle into the braking range.
So if we keep an eye on here now, it goes into the yellow and the ball comes back. And the more brakes I add, the faster I brake. It's not rocket science, right? But that's what this is telling me. In braking, I can see my speed dropping, and that ball tells me that I'm slowing down.
The amount of braking you will need to apply also varies depending on whether you're going uphill or downhill and how heavy your train is. Knowing the right amount to apply will come with practice and experience.
Yeah.
Stopping a train is one of the biggest challenges of controlling it, particularly stopping it in the right place. That concludes this module. If you wish to replay it, you can come back to it at any time via the training center.
And there we have it, guys. Yeah, and he's absolutely right. Experience. The more you drive, the better you'll become. And the more you drive specific locomotives, the better you'll know at their braking and all this stuff. Anyway, let's move on to passenger operations is next. I think for this video, we'll do the passenger operations and then we'll knock this video on the head, and then I'll carry on the tutorials in the next one. So let's jump in to passenger operations. I believe we do this in the rain as well, which is fun.
In this training module, you'll be learning basic passenger operations in this Class 323 electric multiple unit. This part of the training center is the metro loop. It is used primarily for driver training for passenger trains that are generally shorter or might stop more frequently in normal operating practice. It consists of 2 platforms. In this module, we'll be doing a complete circuit and practicing stopping at both stations. When you're ready, open the door and climb aboard the train.
Okay. So we are ready. So we're going to climb aboard, get out this rain, sit in the seat.
Always remember to close the driver's door once you get in the cab. Some trains will prevent the brakes from releasing if any doors, including the driver's door, are still open.
Okay, so sometimes it can be hard to find the door bit. You just hover till it appears, basically.
To unlock the control desk, insert the master key and activate it.
So remember, I'm getting my next task up here, and I'll also have somewhere on the screen at the moment something that tells me which is down here. So if I follow that, it shows me where my master keyhole is. Pop in the key, turn it on.
Turn the coach lighting on so that passengers aren't boarding a dark train.
Again, I don't know where the coach lighting is. I look for the symbol here. You can kind of see it here. And I follow it. And it will show me where each button is.
To allow passengers to board the train, you will need to open the correct doors. In order to use the buttons in the cab, you must first insert and then turn the door key to the on position.
So the door key, there's my little marker, is up here. Pop it in. On.
As the platform is on your left, press the open doors left button.
So you can use the in-cab buttons, or you can use your keyboard shortcuts. For this one, I'm going to hit this.
The weather has turned quite bad, so you'll need to turn the wipers on.
Wipers are over here. And it tells me up here, set the wiper control to intermittent 2. So there's intermittent 1, intermittent 2.
The cab light is currently on. Make sure to turn it off. It's useful to find your way around in the cab, but can make it hard to see out of the window, so you should always turn it off before you start moving.
Okay, cab light is here. Pop it off. Or you can just hit the L.
Headlights in the UK are used to allow others to see the train rather than being of great use to the driver seeing out. Set the headlights for daytime running and ensure the tail lights are off.
So again, popping our headlights on and our tail lights off.
While the passenger doors are open and the loading objective completes, you'll notice the bar in the top left slowly rising. Once it reaches the top, the objective will complete and it will be time to close the doors.
So here's our objective bar. This is telling me how close I am to the passengers all being loaded.
Now the passengers have boarded the train, close and lock the doors using the close left doors button.
So in this case, this is our blue button, or you can just re-hit Y.
Set the reverser to forward.
That beeping sound was just the doors shutting. Reverser to forward.
Apply some power to get moving.
I'm going to use my A key for this, and if you'll notice over here, you get an indication of what you're doing, and remember you've got it here as well. So we are going to get moving here. Let's get some more power. Wheel slipping thing in the wet is a thing. I'm not going to go too fast, so I'm just going to cruise here. So it's just asking me here to stop at Metro South, which is over there. Distance, here's our distance here, in Train Sim World is as the crow flies. So if I look at my map here, it's from here to here, not all the way round. Which is annoying. It's just one of those things.
You're approaching
that
the next station. Use the power brake handle to apply power so that you come to a gentle stop at the indicated marker on the platform.
So I'm putting the brakes on. My speed will start to drop. And you can see the markers on the ground here where you want to line up your 3-car train. You don't have to be bang on with this, but obviously when you do it in the game, more accurate you are with your stop, the more points you get.
This platform is on the right, so you'll need to use the open right doors button to unlock and open the doors this time. Once again, observe the objective indicator on the HUD to tell you when it is completed.
Okay, so we can hit either U or just press the button in cab. And we can watch our bar filling up, which will tell us when the passengers are on.
Use the doors close right button to close and lock the doors.
So for this one, I'm actually going to hit U on my keyboard.
Drive the train to the next platform without any further guidance and see how you get on.
Okay. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to give ourselves full power and see if we get any wheel slip. If you do, you'll see little wavy lines here. On this one you don't. Like, maybe this is because it's the tutorial or not. Often if you go full power on a heavy wet day like this, you will get wheel slip, especially if your train's heavy. Anyway, again, our stop is over here. We're actually getting further away from it. Remember, distance is as the crow flies. Now we're coming round. We'll be heading towards it soon. While we do this, actually, slow it down a little bit. And again, if you brake too heavily, you will also get wheel slip. So one of the reasons I prefer a minimal HUD is because all this information is right in front of me. This speedo here is this speedo here. The other information I can get from other places on the screen, but we will go over that in a few videos time. We'll have a look more at that. As you drive a train more, you'll get more familiar with the brakes I'm adding and removing to suit. And I'm always trying to think, if I'm a passenger service, I don't want to be braking too hard and I don't want to be accelerating too hard, right? My platform's on my left-hand side, so I'm going to hit my Y key. Or I could have just hit these buttons here. Oh, lock the doors. Again, hit my Y key. And I think that'll bring it to an end, this one.
That concludes this module. If you wish to replay it, you can come back to it at any time via the training center.
Excellent. Right, we are going to leave that one there. When we come back, we shall be looking at camera controls. And I'll probably do a video on the camera controls and a couple of the other training ones. I don't want the video. This has already been a longer video than I intended it to be. So let's leave it at that. We'll be back at the next one. Liking and subscribing really helps me out, guys. So if you've stayed here till the end and you fancy doing so, if you've learned something, please do so, because it really does help me out. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, guys, and I will catch you at the next one.